My brother stood at our father's funeral reception, surrounded by business partners and family, and announced that Dad had left him the entire company. $3 million worth of manufacturing business, built over 30 years. Everyone congratulated him. I stood in the corner, silent, watching him accept condolences and celebrate his inheritance. He looked right at me and smirked. What he didn't know was that I had Dad's real will in my car, along with video testimony Dad recorded 2 weeks before he died, and I'd already hired the best litigation firm in the state. His celebration was about to become very short-lived. Here's what you need to know. My dad built his manufacturing company from nothing, started in a garage, and grew it into a multi-million-dollar operation supplying parts to major automotive companies. My brother Devin worked there for 15 years, always in sales, always ambitious. I went a different route, got my MBA, worked in corporate consulting. Dad and I were close, talked business strategy constantly. Devin resented that. He thought Dad valued my opinion more than his loyalty. When Dad got his cancer diagnosis 6 months ago, everything shifted. He knew he didn't have much time. He called me to his house one night, just the two of us. He told me he was leaving the company to me, not Devin. Said Devin was a great salesman but didn't have the strategic vision to run the business. He'd already drafted the will with his lawyer. Everything was official. He made me promise I'd keep the company going, protect the employees, honor his legacy. Dad died 3 weeks later. Heart attack, sudden, devastating. The funeral was massive, hundreds of people. Dad was respected in the business community. After the service, we had a reception at his house. That's when Devin made his announcement. But what happened next made my blood run cold. Devin pulled out a will, different from the one Dad showed me. This version left him the company and me a small cash payout, $50,000. He said Dad had changed his mind in the final weeks, decided Devin deserved the business after all his years of dedication. He read it out loud to everyone gathered, made a whole speech about carrying on Dad's vision. I was in shock. I knew that wasn't Dad's real will. But Devin was so confident, so prepared. He had documents, he had witnesses signing off on it. People were already treating him like the new CEO. I couldn't process it fast enough to fight back in that moment. After everyone left, I went to Dad's study. Found his real will in the safe, exactly where he said it would be. Dated 2 months before he died, clear as day, leaving me controlling interest in the company. Devin's will was dated 1 week before Dad died. Someone had forged it and I had a pretty good idea who. That's when everything changed. I didn't confront Devin immediately. I called Dad's lawyer first thing the next morning. He was confused, said he hadn't drafted any new will. The one he had on file was the one leaving me the company. I told him about Devin's version. He said we needed to see it immediately, that if it was forged, this was serious fraud. I got a copy from Devin, told him I just wanted to review it for my records. He handed it over smugly, probably thought I was accepting defeat. I took it straight to the lawyer. Within 2 hours, he'd identified multiple red flags. The signature didn't quite match Dad's. The witness signatures were from people who claimed they were out of town that day. The notary stamp was from a notary whose license had been suspended. Devin had faked the entire thing. And he'd done it badly. He must have been counting on me not challenging it, on family loyalty, keeping me quiet. He was wrong. I hired a litigation firm that day. Not just any firm, the one that handled the biggest corporate disputes in our state. I showed them everything. Real will, fake will, Dad's medical records proving he was on heavy medication that last week and couldn't have been making legal decisions. They took the case immediately. Quick thing, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. We post family revenge stories daily, and, trust me, some are even crazier than this. Alright, back to the story. But here's what I hadn't told anyone yet. Dad had recorded a video 2 weeks before he died. He was lucid, clear-minded, and he explained his entire will on camera. Why he chose me to run the company, what his vision was for the future, everything. He'd emailed it to me as a backup, said if anything seemed fishy after his death, I should use it. I showed that video to the lawyers. They called it the smoking gun. Dad literally stating his intentions, dated and time-stamped, impossible to dispute. Devin had no idea this video existed. Dad had recorded it alone in his study, never mentioned it to anyone but me. Meanwhile, Devin was already acting like the CEO. He moved into Dad's office, started making changes to operations, even fired 2 longtime managers who questioned his authority. The employees were confused and scared. They'd expected me to take over. Knew I'd been Dad's chosen successor. But Devin had legal documents, or so they thought. I let him play CEO for 2 weeks. Let him get comfortable, make mistakes, show everyone who he really was. He immediately tried to cut costs by reducing employee benefits, talked about selling off parts of the company to private equity firms. Everything Dad would have hated. Want to know the best part? Devin called a board meeting to formalize his position. Invited all the major stakeholders, planned this whole presentation about his vision for the company's future. He sent me an invitation too, probably to rub it in. I accepted. Said I'd be there to support the transition. I showed up to that boardroom with my legal team. 3 lawyers in expensive suits, carrying briefcases full of evidence. Devin's face went pale when he saw them. He tried to play it cool, asked what was going on. I smiled and said we needed to clear up some confusion about Dad's will. Little did he know I had one more card to play. My lead attorney stood up and presented the real will. Explained that Devin's version was a forgery, pointed out all the inconsistencies. Devin started stuttering, said there must be some mistake, that his will was legitimate. Then we played Dad's video. Watching that video in that boardroom was surreal. Dad's voice, strong and clear, explaining exactly what he wanted. He talked about my business acumen, my strategic thinking, my commitment to the employees. He said Devin was a talented salesman but lacked the judgment to run the company. He said he hoped Devin would understand and support me as the new CEO. The room was silent. Board members were staring at Devin in disbelief. One of them, Dad's oldest business partner, looked like he wanted to punch Devin right there. The lawyers presented the forensic evidence of the forgery. The fake signatures, the suspended notary, the timeline inconsistencies. Devin tried to defend himself. Said maybe there was a mix-up, that he'd found that will in Dad's papers and assumed it was legitimate. But we had evidence he'd been to 3 different notaries in the weeks after Dad's diagnosis, trying to find one who wouldn't ask too many questions. We had his browsing history showing searches for how to forge a will and will contest statute of limitations. 3 days later, karma came knocking harder than I could have imagined. The board voted unanimously to remove Devin from any position in the company, effective immediately. Security escorted him out of Dad's office while he was still making excuses. The Real went through probate, fast-tracked, because of the fraud attempt. I became CEO within a month. But the legal consequences for Devin were just beginning. The district attorney got involved. Forging a will is a felony, especially when you're trying to steal millions. Devin was charged with fraud, forgery, and identity theft. His lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the DA wasn't interested. This was too blatant, too calculated. The trial was brutal for Devin. Every piece of evidence was damning. The video of Dad explaining his wishes played in court, and the jury could see Dad was completely sound of mind. Devin's own internet history got read aloud. His visits to shady notaries got documented. He had no defense. He was convicted on all counts. Sentenced to 5 years in prison, 3 years probation after that. The judge said it was one of the most callous betrayals of family trust she'd ever seen, trying to steal from your own father's deathbed wishes. Devin cried during sentencing, said he was sorry, that he just wanted Dad to be proud of him. Too late for that. I couldn't believe what I was seeing as the verdict came down. My brother, the person I grew up with, being led away in handcuffs because he'd tried to steal Dad's legacy.
Part of me felt sad.
Most of me felt justified. Running the company has been challenging but rewarding. I kept Dad's core values, protected the employees, even gave raises to the managers Devin had fired. Revenue is up 18% in the first year. Dad would be proud, I think. I visit his grave monthly, tell him about the business, about how I'm honoring his vision. Real quick, where are you watching from? Drop your country below. And honestly, would you have gone this far? Let me know. Now, here's where everything exploded even more. Turns out Devin had been planning this for over a year. We found emails dating back to before Dad's diagnosis, where Devin was complaining to friends about being overlooked, about how he deserved the company more than his stuck-up sister with her fancy MBA. He'd been building resentment for years, waiting for an opportunity. When Dad got sick, Devin saw his chance. He'd even tried to isolate Dad from me those last few weeks, volunteering to handle all his care, so I wouldn't have as much access. Dad had seen through it, which is why he made that video. He knew Devin might try something. The employees told me stories after Devin left. How he'd been making promises about taking over, about changing everything, about getting rid of dead weight once he was in charge. He'd been positioning himself as the heir apparent for months, undermining Dad's actual decisions. People were relieved when the truth came out. Devin's wife divorced him while he was awaiting trial. She claimed she had no idea about the forgery, didn't want to be associated with that kind of fraud. She got custody of their 2 kids, moved across the country. Devin lost everything. His freedom, his family, his reputation, his chance at the company. Mom sided with me, thank God. She'd known about Dad's real will, had been horrified when Devin announced his fake version at the funeral. She testified at his trial, said Devin had always been jealous of my relationship with Dad, that she wasn't surprised he'd done something desperate. That testimony from his own mother destroyed any sympathy the jury might have had. Then I found out the truth about Devin's finances.
He was drowning in debt.
Gambling problem, luxury car leases he couldn't afford, a mortgage on a house way beyond his means. He'd been counting on inheriting the company to save himself financially. The forgery wasn't just about ego or jealousy. It was desperation. He needed that $3 million business to avoid bankruptcy. That knowledge didn't make me forgive him, but it helped me understand. Devin had built a life he couldn't sustain, made promises to his wife and kids he couldn't keep. When Dad got sick, he saw one way out and took it, regardless of the consequences. He gambled everything on that forged will working, and he lost. I've been asked if I regret prosecuting him, if I wish I'd handled it privately within the family. The answer is no. Devin didn't just try to steal from me. He tried to steal Dad's legacy, to override a dying man's final wishes. He was willing to destroy everything Dad built just to solve his own financial problems. That deserves consequences. The company is thriving now. We've expanded into new markets, upgraded our facilities, invested in employee development programs Dad always wanted to implement. I hired a new sales director to replace Devin, someone with integrity and vision. The team respects the leadership and clients have noticed the positive changes. Plot twist: Devin had actually tried to forge an earlier will too. We discovered evidence during the trial that he'd attempted this 6 months before Dad died, but couldn't get it notarized. He'd been planning this betrayal for longer than anyone realized, just waiting for the right moment when Dad was weak enough that questions wouldn't be asked. And that's how karma caught up with him. If this satisfied you, smash that like and subscribe for daily family revenge stories. Comment what you think Devin deserved. YouTube's recommending another crazy story next. Check it out. See you there. Sometimes I drive past the prison where Devin is serving his sentence. I don't visit. Maybe that makes me cold, but I can't forget what he tried to do. He didn't just betray me. He betrayed Dad, tried to erase his final wishes, attempted to steal his life's work. That's not something you come back from. Blood might be thicker than water, but it's not thicker than betrayal.